In the event of a chemical, biological, radiological or nuclear incident, prompt and appropriate action based on the latest research will save lives. A CBRN event might be a criminal act, including terrorism. But if it's the result of an accident or for natural reasons, it's a hazmat incident. They might be rare, but they do happen. In the year to March 2014, 448 such incidents were reported to the Police National CBRN Centre. This includes 216 white powder incidents, 115 suspicious chemical releases, 61 chemical suicides, 38 drug incidents, initially reported as white powder incidents, but on investigation illicit drug labs were found. 13 biological events such as threatened anthrax letters, 5 explosion incidents, normally involving homemade explosives. During the same time period, 778 hazmat incidents were reported to Public Health England. 13 incidents involved exposure to swimming pool chemicals, predominantly at hotels and schools. 32 incidents occurred on farms or involved agricultural chemicals. Nearly 10% of the calls came directly from GPs, hospitals or NHS 111 staff, requesting advice on decontamination, evacuation and safety. The latest research shows that the action taken by staff in the early phases of an incident will make all the difference to its outcome.
Am I right to ask you to just wait just outside and just stand down?
This initial operational response puts patients at its centre.
Thank you.
Well, we performed a comprehensive programme of research to evaluate various aspects of disrobe and decontamination. The findings of that work provide the scientific evidence which underpins the new operational response. I think at the most basic level, the new response can be thought of as essentially first aid for contaminated casualties. It's based more on common sense, more than specialist training. So I think in that respect, the new response can be readily used by all staff as part of a multi-agency response, and not just those immediately at the scene of an incident. I think perhaps most importantly, the new response puts the focus back on patients and not processes.
Hello, is that Southampton General? Yes, thank you. We've got a declared major incident at a leisure centre.
The ambulance service may well alert emergency departments directly to such an incident. Or it might be that members of the public or casualties take themselves to A&E.
Morning, can I help
In
you?
the case of walk-in surgeries, it's more likely they will be alerted by self-presenters.
Can I ask you to just step back from the window for me, please? If you just walk straight back out the doors and turn right.
What is that?
Those self-presenters or their escorts are a valuable source of information about the incident.
Okay. Thank you.
People affected by contamination could arrive at any building with an NHS logo. That's why it's critical receptionists and other staff who may be their first point of contact are trained in the IOR principles.
It's absolutely vital, the early recognition of a patient, because a patient could self-present in an accident and emergency department contaminated. So early recognition ensures that we're preventing the contamination of others within the department, other patients, visitors and staff themselves. We need to know who that patient's been in contact with, where the incident happened. Potentially there could be a spread that we're unaware of, people moving around from whether it's from a work-related incident or something's happened at home or for some kind of accident.
Hiya John, it's only Wenda. Just to let you know, booked in 2 patients that's been involved in
Early recognition of a hazmat or CBRN incident is essential to ensure an effective response. For all health staff, steps 1, 2, 3+ is the best way to identify and respond to a hazmat CBRN incident. Step 1. One person incapacitated for no obvious reason, deal with them using normal procedures. Step 2. 2 people incapacitated for no obvious reason, use caution when dealing with them. Step 3. When 3 or more people are incapacitated for no obvious reason, use caution and follow PLUS. PLUS covers the actions undertaken to save life. These are the IOR principles and apply to staff in the front line of emergency departments, urgent care or walk-in centres and GP surgeries. These include: isolate the patient to prevent cross-contamination, get the patient to undress to their underwear and blot exposed skin and hair with absorbent material like blue roll, communicate and escalate the incident.
While the patients are being dealt with, the communication would have been escalated within the hospital or within the urgent care centre or GP surgery. Specialist advice would be being sought by the medical teams regarding how to manage the patient once they're deemed to be decontaminated. Business continuity plans would have been activated, and if staff apply the IOR principles, this will facilitate and allow the departments to continue normal daily business.
You could possibly have some contaminants on your clothes. If you could take your clothes off now for me.
Staff carrying out the dynamic risk assessment must continuously weigh up the risk to patients and staff of treating a contaminated casualty versus the risk of waiting for specialist assistance.
If you just walk away from your clothes, come towards me, and I'll tell you when to stop. And I'm going to pass you this blue roll. If you just stay there for me, I'm going to throw you the blue roll, and you need to wipe yourselves down. Blow your noses, wipe your hands, tip your head back and wipe down the back of your head as well, cleaning all around the head. Well done.
Use dry decontamination where the contaminant is a non-caustic chemical material. Casualties should disrobe as rapidly as possible, blow their nose and spit out, blot their hair and expose skin. Start from the top and work downwards.
I'm going to pass you these gowns.
New
now.
research
You put
shows
them
that
on,
dry
ties at the
decontamination is
back.
the best thing to do for a patient.
We're going to take you to safety and get you warm.
Afterwards, they can be treated as normal.
Come through now, we'll get the doctor to see you. Okay. Come on through.
By the very nature of NHS facilities being so open to the general public and all having the NHS logo above them, people will gravitate to these facilities in the event of a large incident. It would be very, very difficult to contain people at the scene of an incident, and they will leave that area and they will seek help at a facility that is particularly close to the place of residence or where they work or where they've been well treated before.
Walk away from me. Walk away.
If previously ambulant casualties collapse during the decontamination process, request specialist assistance urgently.
Stop there. You have contaminant on you, remove your clothing. For your own safety and for everyone else's safety, you need to remove your clothing. I'm going to get you over to where you need shortly. Walk towards me, step away from your clothing.
Clear communication will make sure the process is carried out correctly.
A little bit further. Stop there. And I'm going to throw you some blue roll. Blow your nose, wipe your face, pat your hair, and wipe down any exposed skin to the contaminant.
Staff should ensure that they're continuously monitoring patients to make sure that decontamination is effective. When it's completed, the patient can be considered clean.
Keep wiping, wipe down all contaminated skin. We're going to get you over to where you need shortly. You're now decontaminated and clean. Please come to me to collect your gown.
As that patient's identified as being contaminated, that risk assessment is kind of ongoing. It always seems like it's several steps that have taken place, but everything is ongoing at the same time. So that nurse will be assessing the patient, taking a history from the patient, where it happened, who else was in contact, what potentially they think the chemical might be. Is the chemical burning? Is it a caustic substance? Is it not a caustic substance? So how to decontaminate that patient. So although there's lots of steps, that nurse will be doing it all in one go.
All trusts have procedures and plans for managing contaminated casualties. You should be familiar with them and refer to them as necessary.
This new approach is much better because it's much quicker. It happens very quickly, ideally outside of the department. The patients disrobe and dry decontaminate. It has less impact on the service that we're providing for other patients in the department. There's less potential for contamination of other people within the department, other patients, and it's less traumatic, especially for children. It can be quite disturbing that having to take your clothes off and then showered in front of people that they don't know, so it's much less traumatic for adults and for children.
GP surgeries, urgent care centres as well as other walk-in clinics will need to call for specialist assistance very early on. A fast response will mean they can return to business as usual more quickly.
The main message for staff regarding the dry decontamination process and the IOR principles is that it's the fastest, quickest and safest route of decontamination that provides the best outcome for patients. And the dry decontamination process is the default process, providing that the contaminants are not radiological, biological or caustic in nature.
Well, our research has demonstrated that for chemicals, disrobing followed by dry decontamination, it's not only safer, but it's actually more effective than wet decontamination. If a patient has been through a dry decontamination process, their skin will be clean, if not cleaner, than through wet decontamination. Now, of course, it should be emphasised that the disrobe and dry decontamination step has been specifically introduced to counter the effects of non-corrosive liquid contaminants. If you suspect that there may be exposure to radiological or biological contaminants, then standard wet decontamination with warm, soapy water should be performed. In other words, once you've performed the new disrobe and dry decontamination stage, it's business as usual, much as you'd normally treat a hazmat patient.
Use steps 1, 2, 3+ to assist in recognising a potential HazmatCBRN incident. Keep at a distance and ensure the patient is isolated to prevent the spread of contamination. Ask the casualty to undress and blot their hair and exposed skin with absorbent material. Find out as much as you can from the patient about the nature of the contamination. Communicate and escalate. When the patient is clean, treat them as usual.
Start to take your clothes off, you're quite safe.
This response from the outset of a HazmatCBRN incident will give patients the best possible help. It will also ensure a proportionate response, keeping disruption to a minimum and allowing the NHS to operate most effectively for the greatest number of patients. For more information, contact your emergency planning departments, the HazmatCBRN leads in your trust, the NHS England Area Team Emergency Preparedness, Resilience and Response Lead, or your service or practice manager.